to a society of more equitable distribution and justice?
Well, it can only come about by the only way we have today, the most civilized way of changing things in our society, and that's the political process, which has its constitutional guarantees. Our Constitution enables us to change this system peacefully, legally.
Talk to me about competition versus cooperation.
Well, competition is good. It's good in areas where it doesn't hurt anybody. It's good when you're playing a card game or you're playing a football game for fun. Winners go home, losers go home. Everybody eats, nobody loses. But when the competition is for the bread on your table, where workers have to compete with other workers for jobs, those who lose in the competition go home without the job, without the necessary compensation that keeps their families together, their own survival needs. That's bad competition. This system, capitalism, thrives on that kind of competition because the more people out there looking for the same job, the less they have to pay them in wages. And then, therefore, the majority of the people who don't fit into those jobs lose out. Now, this is very true in terms of the recent problems we're having with, with Mexican immigration. And the only reason why Bush, that's the president, the second Bush, not too much unlike the first Bush, Bush and the corporations have literally decided that open borders are the best thing for the corporations. Imagine millions of Mexican workers coming over here looking for the same jobs that American workers are coming for or looking for. And of course what happens is you've got 30 people looking for the same job. You know that the corporations have the greatest opportunity to provide that job for the least amount of money, and somebody's going to grab it because they need it. And the others have to go off. That's the kind of competition that our system today breeds. But in an economic democracy, incidentally, an economic democracy is another name for socialism. In an economic democracy, there would be no competition for jobs because you'd be producing not to compete in the market with other products, therefore trying to lower your costs by reducing your labor costs. You'd be producing things that everybody would have available to them through a new form of remuneration. In other words, a new form of payment systems that would not require money, but would require an equal exchange of values contributed to a socially necessary industry. The whole line, you see, I'm getting into some things about economic democracy or socialism that is well ahead of what we're talking about now. But it's a study. It's a study in which, if enough people knew about it, I can see no reason why they wouldn't in any way say, what are we doing with this system? Let's get our representatives into Congress and get into this amendment process using the Constitution, ordain private industries to be publicly, socially owned, and then proceed from there democratically because we're already there in the industries doing it. We're doing everything in the industries today, but under the private edicts of the ownership of the industries, the capitalists who own it, the big investors who own it, who own it. So I'm getting ahead of myself, but the idea that we can have a democracy in our society in both our civic government and in our industrial institutions is not far-fetched. It's a matter of being informed. Is this on?
You can have the drink. I'm not turning it off, but
Good.
It won't be in there.
Oh, why not? It looks good.
Okay, it'll be in there.
It looks good. Pardon me.
Sure.
But I've heard enough from constitutional attorneys, and I've heard enough from somebody like Dennis Kucinich, who has outlined very clearly all of the impeachment offenses that Bush and Cheney have been guilty of, according to him. And I also have understood that more than a majority of people in the government agree with him, but that the leaders in the government, like the Pelosi's and the Reeds in the Senate, Pelosi in the House, the Reed in the Senate, do not want to go through the impeachment process at this stage because they feel it would be politically not advantageous to them. But in terms of the moral consequences of what Bush has been doing, of course, when you You invade a country and destroy millions of people and wound hundreds of thousands of others. That's an impeachable offense, since there was no declaration of war. It was a unilateral invasion, you might say. So I would say he's guilty of all those things, of course. And from my point of view, as to how a democracy operates in a society, he certainly would be charged with all the offenses that people ascribe to him. Of course he was guilty. His entire administration is, because they went along with it, and the entire groups that inform him, his personal advisors, are also part of that guilt process. But you see, in our system, this is the way the system gets away with it. They get away with things like this because we tend to blame the politicians. But what inspired the politicians to do what they did in Iraq? Of course, the corporate oil community here. They wanted the oil. They couldn't get it the way they were getting it through Saddam Hussein or from others who were second parties to getting oil over here from that part of the country. And they wanted control over it. If anybody knows about Program for the New American Century, PNAC, it's a group of corporate thinkers who got together, and they even years ago tried to have Clinton, President Clinton, get into Iraq. The bottom line is, you and I have no control. That's the bottom line. We go to our town meetings, we express ourselves, but beyond that, we may send our representative to voice our opinions. They don't, they do what they wish. They're beholden to other groups, not to us. And those groups, we all know, are the corporations. The giant corporations, not the small ones that exist here in Falmouth, but the real dominant ones, GMs, GEs, and so forth. Oil, Halliburton, we know the names. A democracy is most essential in our society if we're going to free ourselves from periodic wars, free people from being impoverished, free people from being jobless, and having a healthy community and a healthy total society where you don't have to walk out into the street and lock your car as you go into somebody else's house. The only way we can have that is to have democracy in those institutions that we at present do not have any power to talk about. And Bush, of course, is incidental to this whole process because the next president will essentially be doing the same things Bush is doing, but perhaps in a different way. But he'll be motivated by the same sources that motivate Bush.
Well, then how do we move? How do we move, Walter? It all sounds depressing to me. The next president is going to be tied into the same system.
Depresses me also. I go beyond depression and I talk like I'm talking now. I talk to people everywhere. We set up meetings. We try to talk to people on a local level. I've been involved with the Green Party in wanting them to pursue more directly their very own green values, which incidentally also call for democracy, a direct vote and voice in all matters that affect people's lives, but they never really announce it to the public because they feel it may be too unpopular.
How we move from this undemocratic, capitalist-controlled system to a new democratic socialist system where we have complete control over our product that we produce in our communities and without any kind of financial or wage constraints or anything like it. Well, how would you envision that transfer?
Well, I envision people to whom I talk. I go to Home Depot, talk to workers there. I talk to Sears, I talk to workers there, talk to Walmart, talk to workers there. And I also tell them what we're about. And I give them my email address. And I'm not the only one in the country who's doing this. There are people, as I said before, in smaller parties who are doing this. And they're significantly aiming at the system as our basic problem. So from those local beginnings, the only way we can do it is by first having the people know what we're talking about, and then when enough people get together in small groups to begin the process of moving a political party, our own political party, to elect representatives like-minded who understand our programs, who agree with